And welcome to the Cult Cinema Circle podcast. My name is Jesse, and I'll be your host. So, on today's episode, we're going to head over to Tri Delta Sorority to go and try to pledge. We're going to go to the bowling alley to go steal a trophy, and also just run into a racially ambiguous imp that is going to grant our every wish. But everybody, today we're going to be doing our wonderful, not so wonderful actually, movie, Sorority Babes in the Slimeball Bowl-O-Rama from 1988. Now, I couldn't just do this thing alone with me. You know, I just can't. Because this movie is so terrible and horrible. I needed somebody else to, be here with me to just commiserate on it. So, you've heard him on his previous podcast. I don't remember what it was called, but, you know, he had a podcast before.
Massacre.
Cocktail Party Massacre, if you heard that. We also have another podcast we did for Summer Party Massacre. But, ladies and gentlemen, and everything in between, please welcome Pickens Barringer to my show. Pickens, it's been a minute. How have you been?
Hello, I'm so happy to be back.
I know, right?
Doing good. This is literally the first thing I'm doing in 2023, so starting the year off on a high note. Seeing you, the movie, not so much, but getting to see your beautiful face is wonderful.
Know, thank you. Same to you. Ever since we've recorded, I did have a random spike in listens, which is wonderful. And our episode actually has done fairly good. So I'm glad that people like you and me talking. That's always nice. I love that.
Most people want me to shut up. So, it's good that some people actually want to hear me talk.
It's all good. You also did, I will also mention too, because if you follow Pickens on Instagram at Party Pickens, please go follow him. You actually did something really wonderful, and I would just want to recount your experience. You were able to meet the one and only Felissa Rose at a screening that you went to of Sleepaway Camp. Can you please just tell me and the listeners just what it was like for that? I just want to know.
Oh my gosh. So she's top 5 people I've always wanted to meet because Sleepaway Camp is my favorite movie ever.
Yeah.
And a long time ago, so this wonderful, if you're ever in the Durham area, there's this incredible theater called the Carolina Theater. And they do a lot of retro screenings, and they do a lot of film festivals and stuff like that. And a few years ago, they played Sleepaway Camp. And sometimes when they do a special cult movie or something with notoriety or something to it, they usually try to bring an actress or someone from the film to come in, give some context.
Right.
And I was please bring Felissa. And allegedly at that time, it was too much stuff to handle. We just don't know how it's going to do, yada, yada, yada. I was okay, fine, whatever. Thankfully, they changed their tune this time around. They did a very early 40th anniversary screening last year, and they brought Felissa in, and I was so excited. I bought my tickets, I think, immediately, as soon as the post went up. I was I bought all the tickets. It was just no, we're doing this. It was in November, so it was a little chilly, but I went in full camp gear. You can see the picture on my Instagram.
It's on his Instagram. Go see it.
Yeah, I was wearing the short shorts, the crop top Camp Airwax shirt. I was camping it up.
Oh my God.
And I was actually very disappointed. No one else really dressed up. They wore
it was also November, Pickens. Okay,
yeah,
North Carolina.
I know.
But I appreciate the vigor. I appreciate the enthusiasm.
Oh, yes. So, ran into the theater, and lo and behold, the first person I run into is her, actually. She was God. She's out in the front, just talking to people.
Hanging out.
And she looked at me, and she was just oh my God, I love your outfit. And from there on,
Jesus.
She, sometimes the saying is never meet your heroes because they'll always disappoint you. This was the exact opposite.
Oh my God.
She was so nice. And she literally spoke to every single person. And she just took the time. She gave a live commentary through the movie, which was I actually found out things I didn't know about the movie, which I'm shocked because I thought I knew everything.
Exactly.
Yeah, and it was just, that's probably going to go down as like one of the best days of my life.
I mean, I get it. Like, absolutely. I thought I would just find out about it because, super jealous. I think it's wonderful. And you know, it's so funny. I mean, the thing is that like, I think Felissa Rose in particular is such an interesting example because she really has taken this thing she did when she was 13 and has turned it into a career, which some can criticize whether or not that's right or not. But I do think that it just shows that like, if you're just nice to people and you just treat people who are your quote fans as like,
Right?
just normal people, you can actually make a career because she's like literally been in like a bunch of she's in one of the Hatchet movies, but like she's literally made something for herself.
And she steals the entire movie. Her character in that, and it's Victor Crowley, and she's the one that she's in, and she's incredible.
Yeah,
and it also goes to show. I think I think it goes to show also just how the horror community we get this like weird like, oh, we're kooky and we're we're just a bunch of loving people that like some gore, we like a little, I don't know, and it just there's no diva or like none of this like we're real
not with
people,
her at least.
We're nice. Not with her. No, she is.
I can't speak for anybody else because I don't go to the cons or anything like that. We only have one in Maryland, and it's the Monster Mania one. It's in New Jersey.
I've been to one of those.
Yeah, it's in New Jersey, Maryland, and Pennsylvania. And they get some good people. Like the biggest one we had, I think, was they did have that was in New Jersey. They had Michael C. Hall. Oh, I was thinking about it. Because I love him for 6 Feet Under. I don't care about Dexter.
Oh,
so
yes, that is a good show.
He was really good. And also Julie Benz was there, and I was thinking of it. Ooh, I was thinking of it because I wanted that Jawbreaker thing signed so bad.
Honey,
ooh.
For what I've noticed with like conventions, usually like what I've noticed is like your standard cult favorite is going to be super nice and super awesome and like,
I mean, Dee Wallace very much like she's a icon.
And sometimes you will get the, I won't say A-lister, but like a B-lister who might come in and be a little disappointing. Sometimes.
I don't know who you be referring to. Jamie Kennedy seems nice. He has a YouTube channel where he
Jamie
talks
Kennedy
about.
Is super nice.
Yeah, he seems nice, and I feel like even someone like a Nev Campbell might be kind of nice. I feel like she'd be out, but again, she's at a certain level in her career. I don't know.
Not to become a celebrity gossip podcast, but
no, do it.
The only person I don't want to speak ill of the dead. But I did have a slight unfortunate run-in with Gunnar Hansen.
Oh yeah, I've heard that too.
It's because everyone was getting him to sign Texas Chainsaw Massacre stuff. Yeah. I wanted to be the different outlier, and also because Linnea Quigley was at the same convention.
Oh my god!
So I wanted to bang for my buck. I asked him to sign my Hollywood Chainsaw Hookers DVD, and he was not thrilled that I gave that. He did sign it, but he looked at me and was just, I paid him for it, so he signed it. But he was not thrilled that I brought that to his attention.
Oh God, yeah, because he's just like, yeah.
And apparently, I can't say this is true because I haven't experienced it, but I've heard. Apparently, Jamie Lee Curtis can also be a little, if you bring her a non-Halloween horror related thing, apparently she can be a little like upset.
So y'all don't bring your Terror Train stuff to her, I guess, apparently.
But Terror Train is so good.
Terror Train is so good. And I also told Pickens yesterday that Terror Train and Terror Train 2 on Tubi are on there. And I think I just changed his life for a minute. I had
no idea there was a sequel.
It's a real thing. And they just came out. They look like horrible. Also, go listen to Danielle Harris's podcast so you can listen to her and Scout Taylor Compton talk about how they didn't have a good experience with Jamie Lee Curtis. We're not going to talk about it right now. But go listen to it. It's really interesting because that is Hollywood, everybody.
That podcast, I'm so happy I discovered it because I love Scout Taylor Compton, and I have met Danielle Harris. and she is also just as nice.
She seems like a sweetheart. I feel like both of them would be really cool because, I mean, both of them literally, I mean, Danielle Harris is an icon. Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead, Halloween, all this stuff. And then Scout Taylor Compton was like kind of a random teen celebrity for a minute, and then she was in the Halloween movies.
I really want
Rob
her
Zombies.
back in like, she needs to, she's a good actress.
Yeah.
She was a good Laurie. The writing was the problem with that one.
I also love how we're just going to get right back to the movie that we're going to talk about. But here's the thing,
about another movie.
I know, here's the thing, y'all. I needed to know all about this because it's very interesting. But also, like, this movie... So, my history with this film, Sorority Babes and the Slimeball Bowl-O-Rama. So, if you listen to the previous episode we did, we talked about David DeCoteau and how this is his first movie he did. And go watch it on, like, Tubi or whatever the hell, right? So, my history with it was that I found this probably from being on Tubi or, like, Shudder or something. But I, depending on my month or whatever, sometimes subscribe to the Dead Meat Patreon. Go listen to Dead Meat if you haven't. They're a great YouTube channel, podcast, all that good stuff. And a commentary track that they have on their Patreon is Sorority Babes and the Slimeball Bowl-O-Rama that they did with a friend of theirs named Lizzie. And so I think I listened to it with this episode, I guess, that they did on it. And so my understanding of it was listening to James, Janice, and Chelsea Rebecca, like, and their friend talking about this movie. And I mean, they didn't mind it. It's a bad movie, but that was my probably introduction to it, I guess. I've seen it a couple different times because this film is really something where it's like a train wreck you can't look away from, I guess, because it's not good. But it is sleazy late 80s, like a movie that is, I guess, a cult classic, and we'll get into why that is, but that's my history with it, really. I watched it last night and the sequel. We'll talk about it, but Pickens, I want to know, what is your history with this Sorority Babes in the Slimeball Bowl-O-Rama?
Oh gosh, I mean everyone should have a history with Sorority Babes and the Slimeball Bowl-O-Rama, right?
That? I guess
I discovered it a little earlier. I was probably like in my early 20s, probably. Sure. You know, it was one of those titles that just kept coming up. It's like, you know,
sure.
I mean, that title grabs you, like,
it does.
Yeah, like, what could this be about? Who knows? And then I think, you know, so I definitely was always on the list. This will kind of actually also get into why this is kind of notorious, because I watched Hollywood Chainsaw Hookers first. Okay. And then from there I just really started discovering Linnea Quigley and then just going through her filmography. And then I found out, Michelle Bauer, that's in Hollywood Chainsaw Hookers with Linnea Quigley, she is like a big star in these B movies. Yeah. Oh, and Brinke Stevens from Slumber Massacre. She's like one of, so which they're considered the three, the B queens. Sure. Yeah. And this is one of like a few movies that all three of them appeared in together. Yes. And so from there I was like, I unfortunately, though, did not have a streaming service at the time that had it. YouTube didn't have it. Right. So I ended up having to buy a DVD copy of it on Amazon. And I want to say it was $15 or $20. Oh, my. Used, because it was out of print. Yeah. They just upcharged. So yeah. I bought that, and I bought, I bought 2 Full Moon feature DVDs. One of those ones, yeah. I know. That's not Puppet Master. The other one, it's not Puppet Master. It was Slave Girls from Beyond Infinity. Oh, okay. So
that's actually on Roku, funny enough. I was watching this on that, and it was like the next recommended thing to watch was that movie.
I will say this, it is much better than Sorority Babes and the Slimeball Bowl-O-Rama, but that's also because it is a basically sleazy future alien remake of The Most Dangerous Game.
That sounds like fun.
And a lot of really fun matte paintings. Yeah. I'm a slut for matte paintings.
Okay, I got you. You're a slut for a few different things too, but it's all
so good. I watched it in my I watched Sorority Babes in my early 20s, and I watched it at midnight in pitch black darkness. I'm pretty sure I was high also. That might
As you
have,
do.
yeah. So I remember enjoying it, and I was like, "Oh yeah, this is fun." Yada yada.
Yeah.
And then I rewatched it last night for the
In
first
preparation.
time in probably at least 7 or 8 years.
Okay.
And it did not hold up.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we'll talk a little bit about it. Yeah. But before we, so as we move into this, though, we're going to go into a few figures about this film as we do, just to go over some of this and the cast of characters. But we'll talk about why this movie just doesn't work and it's really bad. But hey, if you're a bad movie connoisseur and you haven't already seen it, it might be part of your oeuvre. Anyway, so this movie, Sorority Babes and Slimeball Bowl-O-Rama, or Bowl-O-Rama as Pickens likes to say, was directed by David DeCoteau. It was written by a guy named Sergei Hasenecz,
Your
Russian
guess is
guy,
as good as mine on that
Eastern
one.
European guy. And it was produced by David DeCoteau and John Showeiler. And it was released, now this is a direct-to-video release, so apparently it was released, according to IMDb, January 29th, 1988, and it was a budget of about $90,000 is what we estimate. There's no box office information because this is direct-to-video, and Full Moon's not going to give us all that. We're looking at about a 36% audience score on Rotten Tomatoes, a 4.9 out of 10 on IMDb, and a 2.7 out of 5 on Letterboxd. For our wonderful cast of characters, we have some people that Pickens have already said, but Linnea Quigley is Spider. That's her name, just Spider. Andreas Jones as Calvin. Robin Rochelle, or Robin Still, as Barbara Babs Peterson. Carla Barron as Frankie. I believe she's one of the sorority girls. Kathy Obrecht as Rhonda, one of the other sorority girls. John Stewart Wildman as Keith, one of the gross boys. Hal Havens as Jimmy, one of the gross boys of Calvin's. Brinke Stevens, wonderful, as Taffy. That's just her name, Taffy. Michelle Bauer, as we said, for Lisa, which is she's one of the pledges with Brinke Stevens. Dookie Flyswatter, which I don't think that's his actual name, but he is Uncle Impie. I don't think it is. And then George, also known as Buck Flower, as the janitor of the Bowl-O-Rama. Now, we have some critical response quotes from... as I do on my show.
I've been waiting
I have
for this
two
one.
of them. I have two of them. They're on Rotten Tomatoes, and they're actually favorable. So we have Jeffrey M. Anderson from Combustible Celluloid, who says, surely one of the most ridiculous, enjoyable B movies of the 1980s. That's pretty general. And then we have Felix Vasquez Jr. from Cinema Crazed, who says, it's trash. There's no arguing that. But in the end, it's entertaining trash. Okay, Felix. All right. Valid, I guess. But yeah, that's what we're looking at in terms of just some figures of the movie. I like how I just have those quotes because they're just on, like, I don't know, that was a publication that they probably have, and they were like, let's just pull these into Rotten Tomatoes, I guess. Yeah, let's talk a little bit about how this movie came to be, I guess, and just some background information before we move into any kind of plot summary. So we got to talk a little bit about David DeCoteau. All right, so David DeCoteau, first off, is a gay man who made this movie. This is his first movie. Well, actually, second movie, really. The first movie he ever did, his story is that he's probably like 60 by now or something like that. Anyway, but he's from Canada, I believe, and he is one of the Roger Corman people. So we talked about Roger Corman a little bit with Slumber Party Massacre because he did produce those, and that was his female series. But this, he worked for New World Pictures, which I believe was a Roger Corman studio that he owned or was part of an owner. If you notice, or if you remember, everybody, New World Pictures did Elvira, Mistress of the Dark, and then promptly went out of business not too long after. And also did Heathers as well. So that happened too.
Iconic.
So this was David DeCoteau was working at New World Pictures as a PA, and as happens in Roger Corman land, like, how Amy Holden Jones did it, Rodman Flender did it, a couple different people did it. You work for Roger, and he'll let you direct something if you do good work, I guess. And I just guess David did some good work, apparently. His first movie he did was Creepazoids, which we'll get into, because I haven't seen that movie, but it does tie into this movie a little bit.
It is kind of fun.
It is kind of fun, which also had Linnea Quigley in it. That was his first movie, and then this was his second movie that he did. And literally, I don't know how he came to do it. I think maybe he was just tasked with like, hey, go make this movie. That is David DeCoteau doing this, so it was his second feature. He has now gone on to really be a king of low budget cinema. I mean, he's definitely done probably another full moon feature or two. He was involved in the sequel that happened.
He's done a crap ton. I call him the 80s Ed Wood because fast production, very low grade, quality, but they're not going to be boring.
No, they're not going to be. And he seems to know, I guess, what men watching these pictures want to see, I guess. Because even though he himself is a gay... Exactly. He knows what guys want. Oh my god. Yeah, no, he does. I also think it's really interesting. So he's gone on to do these different films, but then also, so one of the big things he did was, I think you talked to me about it before Pickens. We were DMing back and forth, but like it was 1313. What was it called?
So he did in like the early 2010s. Yeah.
Okay.
He started doing a film series called they're 1313, and they like. There's like 1313 Killer Bees, 1313 yada 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 yada. They all are filmed in the exact same mansion. Like the location is the same in every movie,
which is like one of his gay friends, probably.
Right? Oh yeah, yeah. Honestly, it does look like something straight out of gay porn. I'm just saying. Who knows? But anyway, had no idea. I thought David DeCoteau went away with the 80s. I thought he was, he's not doing anything. Lo and behold, I was in Georgia, of all places, at a Redbox with one of my friends. He's also a big horror geek. And he was like, and he knew I loved Linnea Quigley and I like the Bee Queens and all that. Yeah. And he was like, oh, the Redbox by me has a movie with Linnea Quigley called Cougar Cult. And I was like, what?
What?
Sure enough, 1313 Cougar Cult stars not only Linnea Quigley, but we have Michelle Bauer and we have Brinke Stevens.
As you do.
And it is also the whole film series itself, the 1313 film series, are Cinemax quality softcore homoerotic features. So essentially, the movie is like an hour and some change, and I want to say a good 30 to 40% of that runtime are slow motion shots of men, young hunky men showering
with full dick,
horrible effects. No, you don't get to see full dick, unfortunately, but you see some ass and you see some abs.
That's
and just a lot of rubbing. They're showering like sleazy 80s slasher movie would have a girl shower. It's a long, multiple. I am multiple shower scenes.
Just long, really. Those boys are really clean. Apparently,
the shower scenes are the sex scenes for this weird homoerotic thing, and they're filmed in 3 to 5 days.
I love that because that's just David DeCoteau in a nutshell. My experience is also I was finding there's this wonderful YouTuber who made an ultimate Degrassi video. Her name is Jane. Go look her up. It's great. If you're a Degrassi fan, it's a great video on YouTube. But she also talks about other bad movies, and it's really fun. But one of the things she talked about was Lifetime movies and how bad they are, which of course they are. But there is actually a film series called The Worst. Okay? So it's The Worst film series. And they're all directed by David DeCoteau. I think either under different names, because that's one of the things he does too, is he'll do different pseudonyms and all that kind of stuff, which is kind of fun. But anyway, he directed all of these movies called The Worst. So we're talking The Worst Roommate, The Worst Real Estate Agent, The Worst Cheerleader. And it's pretty much it's pretty much like a film where some young girl, I guess, ends up getting into some kind of relationship, not with a man, but with gets some kind of social relationship with somebody who is the worst and is evil apparently. And then, hilarity ensues after that. And all of these movies pretty much all star Vivica A. Fox, which is hilarious. And is just... that's just David DeCoteau in a nutshell. Is that he
modern day Ed Wood?
Modern day Ed Wood. I think he knows he's a mediocre filmmaker, I guess, but he's okay with that. Like, he's totally fine with, like, yeah, I'm not like Ang Lee or like Spielberg, okay, but I know where I lie, okay? Like, I am not that Ang Lee's amazing or anything, but like, I'm just saying, like, he knows where he lies. He really does.
Well, same like Linnea Quigley. She always said that she is a blue collar actress. You know, it's a similar it's the same profession, but it's just a different, $90,000 instead of $900 million,
Exactly. Right. Exactly. And that's the thing, is that a lot of that is just there. So that's David DeCoteau in a nutshell, is that he has just gone on to have his career. We're not going to talk too much about just like the cast in general, but of course we got to talk a little bit about just the three in general, like, in the Linnea Quigley. We already talked a little bit about Michelle Bauer and Brinke Stevens. So Linnea Quigley, as we already know or may not know, Iowa girl, went out to California to make her dreams come true. She ended up starring in a movie called Fairy Tales, where she got naked for the first time. And she just kind of was like a journeyman actress, I guess, to a point, until she hit her big break, I think, with Return of the Living Dead. And then once she had that, she then was able to get other roles, like in Creepazoids and in, like I said, Return of the Living Dead. She was in Night of the Demons, which is an excellent movie, and she's just made herself
Silent Night, Deadly Night.
Oh yeah, that one too. Yep, you're right. And she's just been able to kind of have that for herself, which is cool. We also have to we did it on the other episode as well, but of course Robin what was her name in this? Yeah, it's Robin Still, I consider her, or Robin Rochelle, I believe, is how she also was known. So
I know her as Robin Still.
Yeah, I know her as this and Slumber Party Massacre, but I was actually just watching the Joe Bobs. He did this movie on his like first marathon he ever did on Shudder. And so pretty much like she was in those movies and a couple different ones. Unfortunately, she did succumb to alcoholism and she unalived herself in 1996. Not to bring the room down or anything, but again, it's just, I actually think she could have been a perfectly good B-movie actress if she didn't.
She was really, I mean, the range. She played, good girl Trish in Slumber Party Massacre.
Yeah.
And she played like very sassy, in-controlled, almost dominatrix style in Babs in this one.
Sure. And she absolutely could have been in that same wheelhouse as Michelle and Brinke and all of these other people. So anyway, rest in peace, girl. We still love you. All right, listen. Michelle Bauer is an interesting one. I know you love Brinke, so I'll let you talk about Brinke, I guess. But Michelle Bauer previously did pornography before. Hey, get your bag, girl. Pretty sure that either this or maybe a movie beforehand was kind of a big break for her, but that she also ended up in like Hollywood Chainsaw Hookers and just other B movies. But she's just like an interesting lady, she's
very expressive eyes. She and Brinke both have their faces are very expressive.
Yeah. And then I'll let you talk a little bit about Brinke, and just because these are the stars of this movie, really. The boys are so annoying.
Yeah, they're not even worth
whatever.
It. Maybe Calvin a little bit, but
maybe.
Yeah. And Brinke Stevens, she completes the trilogy. Yeah. She found out from Jesse actually last night. She's a director now because she directed the sequel.
Yes, she did, and we'll talk about it. Jesus Lord! Oh, but she is a director. She's director.
She's in. Yeah, but she was in the same wheelhouse. She was in Slumber Party Massacre.
First
and
role,
she
I think.
was just in
one of her first roles.
Yeah. She was actually also in Slave Girls from Beyond Infinity, which was the other full moon picture that I saw. But yeah, and she is still working to this day. She's now apparently directing, and she will make some cameos. And she's just living her best life.
Probably
there is
actually
if you ever want to get more information on especially these three, there is this really great documentary called Screaming in High Heels, and it kind of is all about this like specific time, the direct-to-video market with the full moon features and some Roger Corman joints, and they interview all three of them, and actually they do a little segment on David DeCoteau because he kind of I think help elevate their career and everything by casting them and everything. But it's a really fascinating documentary, and it also does show like how conventions and stuff like really kind of revitalize and save, like, they were kind of, after the direct-to-video market kind of failed, they were not really getting work, and then thankfully because of the conventions, it got interest back up, and now they're living a good life.
They are, yeah. And I think that's just so interesting to kind of talk about. And I think we'll mention it a little bit too. I talked about it in my Scream episode about just how horror evolved and why Scream was, I guess, kind of important to this genre. But I also think can talk a little bit about, I mentioned a little bit of it on there, but I think because this movie is very much, it's a full moon movie. It was a direct-to-video movie and all. For anybody who doesn't already realize, I mean, it was a pretty big deal in the 80s to have a direct-to-video market. I think it's important to mention this because my podcast in general is about these cult classic movies that generally people watched in their youth or that they found later in their life, or maybe it didn't do as good or whatever. So when you think about film as a whole, and me and Pickens, I don't think are like film majors or anything. We didn't study this. I studied theater. When it comes to movies as a whole, okay, you had obviously like the 50s and 60s, Marlon Brando and like, these different actors that are like coming up in the actor studio and making their film debuts in Hollywood as a whole, right? And these different like big movies. Then you have 60s and 70s, again, you have that wheelhouse. So you have like Psycho and you have like Night of the Living Dead and Rosemary's Baby and stuff. 70s, of course,
pushing the envelope.
Yeah, and then 70s has people like, Wes Craven, John Carpenter, David Cronenberg, who are doing their thing, right? But when you think about film, it's hard to believe, but people, especially if you're older, you didn't have the ability to have home video. A movie would just come out and it would just come out, and if it bombed, it bombed. If it didn't, it would continue going because that's how business works.
And maybe if you're lucky, it would play on television at some point. Or it would
re-release, or something like that. But like the fact that in the late 70s to 80s, you could have Laserdisc and you could have VHSs, which are now out of date, but still beloved by people. But the fact that you could have physical media, I think, just really kind of helped with just the fandom as a whole with different genres. And then also just it lets something like Sorority Babes, even though it's horrible, be able to be created and give these people a chance to have a career too. Well, do you have anything to add to that, though?
The reason why they have a career is because Hollywood, it took a long time for them to get on board with the VHS market in general.
True.
But do you know how expensive to buy a VHS was? I saw there's a class, if you Google Slumber Party Massacre VHS, you will see a $79.99 price tag, and this is like in 80s money. So they were expensive. So renting was the preferred method. A video store, a company could buy the tapes, people would rent them. But Hollywood was very the studios did not want, they were trying to come up with a concept where you would have to buy a movie every time if you wanted to watch it. They were worried about making money, and they really only gave them, I think, 10 years or older catalogs. It would not give them anything new.
Exactly.
So the turnout was really slow, but people were eating this stuff up. They were like, oh, I can rent this and watch it anytime I want, rewind. And that's how the direct-to-video home market kind of came in. These people were like, there's a demand for video. We need video. And Hollywood's, they're taking their sweet time. So that's how it all happened. They because of this, there's this market boomed, and people, they're getting a shitty $90,000 budgeted film, but it was the fact I can bring this home and watch it. I can rewind it. I can jerk off to the nude scenes in the privacy of my own home.
Exactly. Right. And that's what it is. And also, I think Hollywood was probably a little apprehensive because of the fact that now this means that you have to make a whole new branch of your company for home video. You have to hire people, you have to do all this. But film in itself, though, has always been changing. And always, and
Hollywood is always a few steps behind. That's exactly what I was going to bring up. It took a long time for them to transition to silent films. and then they were very apprehensive with television, and and
or
even
sound
nowadays
or
streaming.
color. Right.
Yeah, sound, color, anything that costs money, and we're living it now with streaming. They were very apprehensive with streaming, and now every studio wants their own streaming service now. And it's just like,
exactly,
girl, get with the. Come on.
It's true, and it's also interesting too, because with these actresses, especially, not saying they're not wonderful, but like people like Linnea,
they're not getting nominated for Oscars anytime soon.
People like Linnea Quigley and Brinke Stevens and God, who else there is? Like, they're not in a part of the mainstream of Hollywood, but they get to have a career in a way, and other folks too get to have this that aren't just in. Again, you have traditional Hollywood, but then you also have this lower budget direct-to-video type market, which still is around. And again, it's more streamers. That's why Tubi is an interesting thing too, because it's a free thing for people, so it's equitable for people to get. But it also has a lot of people who are independent who are putting stuff on there. So it's just really interesting how you can have that.
That's how they get the exposure now, because we don't rent movies anymore. Sadly,
exactly. I do miss that too, because we're old ladies, and so we definitely remember. We only had like a Blockbuster where I lived. We didn't have like a mom and pop shop like that. But even that's what you had before you had Blockbuster, and the fact that also Blockbuster really fumbled their bag with not buying Netflix out when they had the chance, which happened. Go watch the Blockbuster if you want to. It's a kind of fun little documentary about it. And
my boyfriend actually just got that for me on a VHS.
Oh, the last Blockbuster?
Someone made like a VHS copy of it, and he got it for me for my Christmas present.
Gotcha. That's cute. Oh my god. But back to Sorority Babes. See, we're gonna go on a little tangents because
we notice how we have not even started to talk about the movie at all. Spoiler alert, there's a reason.
There's a reason for it, because there's not much to it, but the production of this film started and ended, I have heard 9 to 12 days. I would say
that's what I've heard.
I've heard in 1987 in September. It was in California, of course. Some of the filming locations included the Plaza Camino Real, I think. That's like the mall that they went to. And then the Eagle One Bowl, which was a part of that, I think, like mall area. This was also
not connected. Like the movie wanted you to make it think. It was a separate location.
And also a fun little thing too is that because of the low budget of this movie, kind of like in Chopping Mall. Oh, we'll talk about Chopping Mall one day. But they had to wait. They had to wait for the mall and the bowling alley to close at 9:00, and then they would just shoot until the morning, which is really funny because they didn't have the money to deal with it. And then also the Imp as well. He had a higher voice in some of the trailers that we have, and then they gave him this like jive voice.
Interestingly.
Weirdly enough. Also a little fun fact, and I don't know if you've seen it, I haven't. David DeCoteau, because he's economical, decided to take the cast of this movie, or at least the girl cast, I think. He then used these same sets pretty much to make a movie called Nightmare Sisters. So he's economical, dude.
He is economical. He is an economical faggot.
He really is, and it's
fun to do it.
Yeah, exactly.
My favorite fun fact about this movie is, according to David DeCoteau, apparently it was pretty much an open bar, and
I love that.
The whole cast and crew were just basically slightly buzzed throughout most of the scenes they were in.
That sounds about
right. Now knowing this piece of knowledge and like rewatching the performances, I was like,
okay, that's fair. I get it. No, it's so true. I also love Linnea Quigley's use of the term "little prick" to talk about the imp. Little prick. I love that. Oh my god, it's so great.
And speaking of the Imp, that was the original title.
Yes, it was. Yeah, the Imp. Although nobody knew what the Imp was, so they were just like, instead of doing that, we're gonna do this other movie, Sorority Babes and the Slimeball Bowl-O-Rama. So I was like, okay, great, wonderful. This movie also, again, so just some random things. So of course Charlie Band was involved with this. I'm not a Full Moon person really, and I don't have the history of it, but Charlie Band, he's one of the people like Roger Corman and Charles Band. Sorry.
Charles Band is, he's the I guess you would say Roger Corman's rival.
Sure.
Yeah,
and then Troma's
he's
just
like
in there
the
somewhere.
I would consider him the snake salesman version of Roger Corman.
That's
Roger
fair.
Corman made trash, but he knew how to put it like a production into it to make it not look like trash. It was elevated trash.
Elevated trash, everybody.
Charles Brand kind of didn't really care as much about production. He just wanted output. And there is slight controversies with him. Sometimes he did not necessarily get the rights to the movies that he released. I think he notoriously released Texas Chainsaw. He was like really early he saw the future of video. And he released Texas Chainsaw Massacre, I think, without even getting the rights to it, because it was the Wild West. They didn't have copyright laws for home video.
No, they didn't.
So he's done some shady things, but Full Moon is still alive and well. They're still making stuff.
They're still making stuff, and they're still cranking it out. He also has a son that apparently was in a band that had like a one-hit wonder song. I don't remember what the song was, but go look it up. Charles Band's son. He was in some band in the early 2000s. But anyway, I'm trying to think if there's anything else kind of fun. Oh, apparently, we'll get into it when we talk about the plot, because there's a fun little fact about one of the sex scenes in here. But anyway, yeah, I know, right? This is also, before we move into a plot summary of this, we also are going to talk not too much about horror hosts, but this movie in particular, somehow or another, became kind of a staple on the programming block of USA called Up All Night with Rhonda Shear.
Which I do not understand, because first of all, I mean, they had to at least cut like all the
like
nudity
half
out.
Of the movie.
Yeah,
right.
So it's like,
well, they would have. Yeah.
I don't really get what I don't know. I want to see a TV cut of this and just see, like,
I do too.
Well, what was it? The title? Was it just it was on night? Was it there was just attractive women? I don't know. I do not know.
I think it was all of the above, Mr. Barringer. I think that's what it was. And also just like, so if you don't already know, Rhonda Shear, rest in peace, Gilbert Gottfried as well. So USA had a answer to kind of what I guess Elvira had been doing a little bit. And then also like kind of Joe Bob, I guess, to a point. Although Joe Bob didn't go on public TV, or more so affordable TV, because he was on the movie channel, and I think he was also on Showtime, I think, or one of those things you had to pay for.
It was the movie channel, and then TNT
with Monster
Vision.
He
transitioned to TNT, and he hated it because like,
I mean, it's his most successful thing, really, with Monster Vision. It's what most people know him from, and also his books and reviews and stuff. But I do like me some Joe Bob. I didn't grow up with him, though.
I love me some Joe Bob, and I love his stuff on Shudder.
Shudder series is really good. Dark Female Girls, everything, love her. But yeah, it's just like, I know. But Rhonda Shear was one of those people, is that, but anyway, Gilbert Gottfried was also part of Up All Night at first. He actually was a part of that, where he was doing the hosting of some of these movies, not the horror movies, though, a ton, I don't think.
Okay,
but Rhonda
I was
Shear
going to say,
another one as well.
I could not imagine Gilbert Gottfried, in this movie, we're going to watch, just like, okay.
You did.
I don't know.
But he did, so he and Rhonda Shear, I think, were actually kind of like co-hosts pretty much, but then it kind of, Rhonda Shear, because she was a pretty lady who was like, a pretty model lady, kind of edged him out a little bit. Sex sells. And also, so she was the one who...
Please never make me think about edging and Gilbert Gottfried in the same sentence.
Listen, I know, I'm sorry. How dare I? But anyway, no, but she kind of, she was the more popular one because A, she's a pretty lady, and B, also, it's not even like she was a huge horror fan. We're not talking like Elvira, who is a down and deep horror fan. I think Rhonda Shear just knew what kind of worked. And also the fact that you could show... like not Nightmare on Elm Street, I don't think, but like Friday the 13th was something that they would show on USA and have that on Up All Night and things of that sort. I guess it makes sense that it would, but at the same time, I'm like, how do you show this movie as a TV cut? Like, what do you do?
Yeah. Like the other, there's other ones that like I get, like, but I don't know. This one has like, yes, all Roger Corman and Full Moon joints, they typically have gratuitous nudity in it. But this one felt like a little bit, like, there's full frontal, which was rare. It's usually just tits.
Yeah.
But this one had a lot of full frontal.
Yeah. Agreed. But yeah, I mean, horror hosting is one of those things where, you know, we just don't have it as much anymore. I think you definitely have, the only thing you do have now really is Joe Bob, if you get Shudder, I guess. And you did have
Elvira just being just still generally in pop culture, which is incredible.
Yeah. And I think she should also come back with her own thing if she wants to. I just know that she's not going to be in the makeup anymore, because I did cover her movie a couple weeks ago. But I think, if anything, I'd love to have her do something where somebody could be a horror host for her, or something like that would be really fun.
Or they could do an animated
thing too. Oh, because she's doing the Scooby-Doo thing where she does that, which is great. And then I think also just some of the, because of YouTube too, I mean, arguably something like Dead Meat is kind of monopolized a little bit of that. Not to say, I mean, I love you guys, but like, it's true. Like, more people who are trying to break into that sphere have to deal with the fact that it's like, oh, but is it like Dead Meat? Or, oh, is it like this? You know what I mean? But there are smaller creators out there who also do that.
Yeah, I'm all for the horror host returning, though, because,
yeah,
you know, really, that's why we're sitting here today talking about this movie that we should have no business even know existed. It's because we had those cable icons introduce this movie to us, explain it to us, tell us about it, you know, and we just, hey, it's 3:00 in the morning. Let's watch.
Let's watch this stupid shit. But without further ado, though, reluctantly, we're going to be talking about the plot summary of Sorority Babes in the Slimeball Bowl-O-Rama. So, I have my wonderful Wikipedia plot summary. So, we open our film.
Wait, before you start, y'all, just remember, the title is called Sorority Babes in the Slimeball Bowl-O-Rama. Just picture, just before you pause, try to think, what do you think this could be about? You're wrong. I'm just letting you know you're wrong.
All of it.
Jesse, take it away. Tell them the plot.
Right. So here's my plot, and you're going to kind of come into it as well. So we start the movie with our title sequence that looks like it's on a PowerPoint. It's like pink and purple, I think, of just word art, of Sorority Babes in the Slimeball Bowl-O-Rama, with the dankest of songs, Here with Darkness or something. It's a really good song, just playing over. So we don't get much except for just this title sequence. Then we are introduced to this movie playing on a TV where you see these three guys in a room together. This movie that's on the TV is actually the feature film debut of David DeCoteau, which is Creepazoids, which I was talking about earlier, that had Linnea Quigley in it. So that's the movie that's actually playing on the TV. But we get introduced to our nerdy frat boys. The nerdy means that they all have, well, actually two of them have glasses on. The other one's just fat and eats a lot, apparently. Relatable. You have Calvin, Jimmy, and Keith. So Calvin is played by Andreas Jones. Jimmy, I believe, is played by Hal Havens. And then Keith is played by John Stewart Wildman. He's the bigger of the two.
And
so they're at their little fraternity house.
They're a little fraternity house. Jimmy looks and dresses like he's 45.
He really does.
And also, they're sitting in the whole wall is just covered with naked women. Like, just a lot of like penthouse cutouts.
Yes.
And I don't know. Like, yes, I do have a calendar of naked men hanging in my bedroom.
Hey, listen.
And straight men. Is this what we do? Is that a thing that actually happens? Or was that David DeCoteau just thinking, straight men like boobs, we're going to put boobs on the wall?
I don't know, man, because that's pretty much what we get. But they are talking about They're just talking about bro stuff. I don't know, just some bullshit about like, oh hey, like
Beer. Let's
beer.
go check on the sorority chicks.
Yes.
And
apparently
it felt
the
improvised.
yes, the Keith guy, I think, has insinuated that he might have had sex before, or maybe he felt someone up, but I don't know. I mean, listen, I'm into bears and all that kind of shit and whatever. I myself am, but like, girl, I would not touch him with a 10-foot pole, bitch. Like, what do you mean? Like, anyway. So they then go and spy on the Tri Delta sorority, which they pretty much walk over to this house that I don't know how far away is from theirs, but they get over there somehow. And we are then introduced to, okay, so we have this big sorority house, y'all, okay? And it only has 5 people in it.
They have 3 members and only 2 pledges. Flop. Flop, 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 flop.
Flop. In this big
AKA,
house.
they could only afford 5 people to be in the movie.
That's true. But we are introduced to Babs Peterson, played by Rochelle, Robin Still, whatever you call her.
Who is giving huge Samantha Jones energy.
Yes. She has her bob going on, but she does give good Samantha Jones energy, very Kim Cattrall a little bit. We got Frankie, played by Carla Barron, and then Rhonda, played by Kathy Obrecht, who are kind of like her little flunkies or whatever. So they're in here, they're getting ready in their like fucking, they're getting in front of the mirror. Their boobs aren't out quite yet, but we're going to get to that in a minute. But they're getting ready. Literally, they all look like they're in their 30s. I don't know what we're supposed to believe. This is just how filmmaking was, everybody. But anyways,
college.
They were in college, but they were like adult students. You know what I mean? Kind of like non-traditional.
They were super,
people.
super, super seniors.
Yeah, very much so. But anyway, so they're just getting ready, and then they do this little sizzle thing, which I don't understand, but whatever. They have their pledges waiting downstairs. Who are the icons of icons? You have Taffy. I don't know why her name is Taffy, but her name's Taffy. And Lisa, played respectively by Brinke Stevens and Michelle Bauer. And they're just like, well, we have to, don't you want to make something of yourself in college? Like, we have to get into this sorority. And so they're just talking, I guess. And so then the other 3 come downstairs and they're like, pledges, you're not supposed to talk, pretty much, all this kind of stuff. We'll talk a little bit about, probably just throughout, about this, spoiler alert, if you want to go watch the sequel or whatever, the sequel is like a remake of this movie. I'm not going to touch that much into it, but there you go. Don't watch it. Wait until it comes to Tubi and then watch it, okay? But anyway, so... just so mad I spent money on that, but whatever, it's fine. But pretty much what happens...
We'll start a GoFundMe for you for the $5.
Please do.
Everyone,
do.
please chip in and let's get his $5 back. Yes.
Please, because I'm just like, ugh. But Brinke Stevens, I love you, so I'm glad you got some money out of it. Whatever.
Love it.
Anyway, so we have her, so we have these pledges here. The 3 people, come and pretty much gonna be spanking these women on the butt with a paddle, while our 3 pervert guys are like outside the window looking into this, because that's what dudes do, I guess.
And also very a la Slumber Party Massacre.
Very much so, right.
Very much so. Just guys watching girls perform for the male gaze, even though there is no man around. Exactly. I don't buy this. They're not really. No sorority would do this.
I don't think so at all. But anyway, so, and then, okay, so you have that. Then you have, like, I think a whip is there, but they don't actually get whipped. They get paddled.
No, just paddled.
And I love their delays of, like, them just being like, oh, yeah, but it's, like, kind of delayed, which is weird. But anyway, and then they get covered in whipped cream, because that's what you do as well. With just you're not naked quite yet, but on your clothes that you have on, that you're in your underwear and all that stuff, like you do.
You have to take it off because it's just covered in the cream.
Yeah, it's covered in cream, so but they pretty much tell them like, hey, look, like, go take a shower and then come back down and we'll do your last part of your initiation. And so they're like, okay, whatever, fine. Still have our pervert guys. The one guy drank a beer and is like fucked off his ass pretty much.
And they decide, those days.
Yeah, I know, right? Where you can drink one beer, you're dainty as hell.
You're tipsy.
Anyway,
you're like, yep.
I love it. But anyway, so they didn't decide to not just be voyeurs, but they're going to break and enter now, to where they go into the back door of this house, and they're deciding to now go and see these girls showering. So as Pickens was saying, we have Michelle Bauer and Brinke Stevens, I believe, Brink is in the shower, just, washing herself off, and Michelle is in the mirror, and they're just like naked, completely naked.
Just full on nude.
Full on nude, full on bush.
Completely, totally normal. What girls do is just hang out in the nude together in a bathroom, rubbing each other.
Ladies, you can let me know if that's true, but, hey.
My note actually around here is basically to Michelle Bauer. I was like, is it really worth joining this sorority? Because I'm not getting the perks. You've been paddled. You have, obviously security is a problem because these guys are able to sneak in and spy on you.
Exactly.
Is it really worth being in this sorority? I don't think so.
Is it really? But anyway, so we got Babs coming up the stairs because the guys have gone upstairs and they're looking at these girls showering, or the one girl showering, really. The other one's just primping herself because she probably was like, I'll show my boobs, but I'm not going to show everything like that right in the shower, but I'll do it later. But pretty much these three guys are like Three Stooges style, like outside of the fucking door. And Babs comes up and she actually paddles the boys so that they fall into the bathroom. Her. Yeah, good for her. Love that. And that's when you see Michelle Bauer's whole bush and her naked body. But then they're like, all right, like, you broke and entered into our house. So Babs is like, kind of raking the guys over the coals, and they're all like, we could call the police on you and blah, 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 but we're not going to, because what you're going to do is you're actually going to help with this, like, last part of this initiation you got to do. And here's what the initiation is going to be. Now that you've gone through all this shit, what you're going to do is you're going to go to the local bowling alley, the local mall, I guess, somewhere.
You have to break into the mall, but go specifically to the bowling alley, why?
Why? You have to go to the mall, but you have to go to the bowling alley specifically, and you have to go steal a trophy. And that's what you're going to go do for your last part of your initiation. It reminds me of, like, not really like this because it's more wholesome and on Nickelodeon, but if you ever watched As Told by Ginger, where the rich girl tells Courtney, she tells her Ginger to go steal they go and steal a sign for her birthday.
Steal the sign. Yeah.
Steal a sign. Yeah. I don't know why, but
that's
this
first
is your
episode
thing.
Because she gets invited to Courtney. You're invited to Courtney Blake's birthday?
Oh my god.
Don't get me started on how much I love As Told by Ginger. That is, oh my god, that is one of the, oh my god.
Me and offline, I think me and Pickens are really going to talk about another podcast we might do if we're going to put that time in to do an As Told by Ginger podcast, because I'm totally okay with it. There is a really good one. Go watch Old School Lane. They do a really good rewatch of it as well. Oh my god, what was it called? We're in Between. That's a really good, if you like As Told by Ginger, go listen to their podcast because it's a rewatch one. But we're going to rival y'all from doing it years ago because I would do it.
Seal girl living in the real world. Oh my god.
It's so good. Oh, and Melissa Disney and just Emily Kapnick. Like, I'm sorry. Anyway, back to this stupid movie.
Yep. Back to this stupid movie you have to talk about.
God. Anyway, so like, why did I put myself into this? Why did we do this, Pickens? Anyway, but so, okay, you gotta go steal this trophy now, okay? And then we'll let you in the sorority. So they're like, all right, cool, whatever. We're gonna like go and we're gonna go over there now. So the two girls and the three guys, they get into a car and they decide to drive out. After they do that, after they leave, we find out that Babs, her father, who we never meet, obviously, apparently owns the mall, and so she can get in really easily. And she's actually not going to have these girls like join this. She's just fucking with them at this point. But we find that out in the whole evil plan, I guess. And they're like, you know what? Let's have some fun. We're going to go and sneak into the mall with them, and we're just going to fuck with them and all that kind of stuff. That's what we'll do. We'll just watch them kind of, I don't know, go break the law. I don't know. But anyway, so we see the drive over to the mall. So you have one of the guys driving. I did also mention to Pickens yesterday when we were DMing that these nerds are kind of hot. And that makes me mad because this movie's not that good. However, these guys are
but they are
hot.
The blonde one specifically, I was like, okay.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. Mm-hmm. I feel you. But anyway, so they're driving, and so I think like Michelle's in the front seat. I think Brinke is in the back seat. And the one guy who had a beer is about to like vomit. So he just like puts his head out of the window, which is fine. And he like kind of hurls, I guess. But he's just not a good actor, really.
It won't be the last time.
It won't be. But anyway, so I believe, if I'm not mistaken, we see Babs and her friends get there first because they get there before these guys and girls do. And so they held up into camera room, but we do also see that unfortunately they accidentally pushed the janitor, played by Buck Flower, into a janitor closet or some other closet he was just like in that has like this real fun red light going on, and so he's kind of locked in there for a minute. Yeah.
And I'll be honest, I did get a chuckle out of, because it's a repeating gag for a little while, and I did get a little nice chuckle out of that.
Yeah, it's a little fun. Yeah. But they're going to be spying on these girls in the camera room, and the guys too. But these folks then end up at the bowling alley. They go up in the car. I don't know whose car it is, but it's somebody's car. But anyway, so they end up there, and they're like, all right, we got to like break in now, I guess. So they break in, I guess, and then the one guy still kind of vomits like on the side, apparently, because we need to know that he's drunk, even though it doesn't come back in the story at all. But anyway, so we see them break and enter into this bowling alley, which is an actual bowling alley that apparently now is a public pool because it got torn down in real life. But anyway, so they enter into this bowling alley, and again, they have to look for a trophy. So while they are looking at this bowling alley, they're looking for these trophies, they end up finding a nice young lady who is a criminal, and she is stealing from the register. And this is where we meet pretty much our main character, I would say, named Spider. Just Spider, played by the one and only Linnea Quigley. Just Spider, who was
totally on set the exact same time the actors were in this scene, because there's so many cutaways to just her, then just them. Just so she totally, completely was 100% on set the same day as them.
Absolutely was. That's such a good point, Pickens. Really, very much so. Anyway, so we see. Oh, and also a little fun fact about the sequel. Okay, so Linnea Quigley is not in the sequel, and I think she was supposed to have been, but she apparently broke her leg before production happened, so she couldn't be in it. Although I think she would have technically done it, because I actually don't think she doesn't like this movie.
Yeah, she oddly talks. She likes this movie because she says this is one of the very few roles she did not have to take her clothes off for.
That's so true.
And actually, David DeCoteau apparently gave her the script and said, "You can pick whatever role you want." So she was like, I'll do the one that doesn't take her clothes off. Bam.
Yeah. But also, fun fact about the sequel, though, is that so there's like stock footage of the original movie in it, with like a voiceover from Kelly Maroney. We love you, Kelly Maroney. We love you. Okay, listen, I love you from Night of the Comet, Chopping Mall. She's in if you have Shudder, if you ever watch Scare Package, the sequel to Scare Package is out now, and she's in it, which is really fun. You should. It's good. And anyway, so like Kelly Maroney, I love you. We all love you.
I love
Fast
her
Times at
She's
Ridgemont High. Like, I love her. Like,
yes, with also Pamela Springsteen, who plays Angela in the Sleepaway Camp sequels.
She's in that movie. Where?
She is. She has a very brief role. Like, she has like one line, and it's in like, I think it's in the cafeteria scene, like right before the blowjob thing. She's like the punk person.
I'm watching that again because first off, I love that movie. Yeah. I'm gonna cover it at some point. I don't know when, but it's gonna happen. And also, Kelly Maroney's in it. But anyway, Kelly Maroney plays the sister to Spider, named Auntie Snake. That's her name. So that's why Kelly Maroney's there. And also, spoiler alert, Pickens, I know it'll break your heart. She also plays we end up finding out that she's the mother of one of the girls that survives in the end. Because that's a story.
Okay. Yeah. Of course.
I think it's the dark-haired one. I think it's the dark-haired one who is supposed to be pretty much Spider. In that film. And so Kelly Maroney ends up being her mom, we find out at the end, and that's the big twist or whatever. Anyway, That's a horrible movie, don't go watch it. Anyway, so we happen upon Spider, our wonderful god of Linnea Quigley, and of course,
I would pay her to degrade me.
Yeah, she talks about what is this, the Midnight Wimp Bowling League, and like all this kind of shit, and she's so good. But I
love her line delivery. she either did not want to be there,
Yeah.
or she was just really going in with the open bar, and it was
Love
the
it.
80s, so who else know what other substances offered? She was
Yeah.
she was like, is the check cleared? Cool. All right.
Great.
Bam.
Wonderful. I love it.
Yeah.
Also, a little fun fact about her. She ended up, I believe, either being in a relationship or marrying one of the guys from Night of the Demons, not the actors, one of the special effects artists. She ended up they're divorced now, but I think they might have actually got married, which is kind of fun. But anyway, so with her help, though, they break into this trophy room, I guess, to go and steal one of these trophies. But because they have to, like, because there has to be a movie, they end up kind of tussling with one another, like fighting with one another or something, and they accidentally drop the trophy. And what ended up happening is when they dropped the trophy, they released and unleashed this imp called Uncle Impie is what he calls himself, voiced by a guy named Dookie Flyswatter. First off, this imp, okay, so listen, he is freaky looking, okay? There's that, which kind of serves the purpose. But again, we're also two white men who are like two white gays talking about stuff. This jive-talking, I mean, listen, Joe Bob loves the jive-talking puppet, and I like any puppet, okay? But like, this one just feels weird to me. I don't know what you think of, Pickens, but I'm just like, what is this?
It had what I wrote down in my notes when I was watching. I was like, I really think they saw Nightmare on Elm Street and they were like, oh, Freddy does a lot of one-liners. Let's do that for our guy. And then they're like, oh, but we need a little something, an edge or something. And I think,
I guess.
I feel like jive was it was an 80s scene, like, oh, stewardess, I speak jive, so yeah. I'm assuming.
Which I think that was 70s actually for Airplane, but there's that.
Airplane was 1980.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, read me. Jesus. Okay, God. I will say, listen, I don't mind Anthony Michael Hall as a person, I don't think, but I do not care for weird science. Similarly, I also don't care for Ferris Bueller's Day Off. I hate that movie. But anyway,
really? Okay, we'll talk about that later. We'll talk about that later. I have questions.
DM about that. We can DM about that.
I have questions.
But,
okay.
I just don't like Matthew Broderick in that role. Edie McClurg is awesome, and also that guy who's the principal is a pedo, which ew. But he wasn't necessarily a pedo at the time, but like whatever. But Edie McClurg's amazing. Love her. And whatever. Anyway, back to Weird Science though. Kelly Brock is everything, and Robert Russler's everything too, because I love him. However, Anthony Michael Hall, also not him, but his friend, has that scene where like he's wearing women's underwear by accident, and he has a really nice butt, which is fun. But the moment where they go to the bar with the there's a bunch of people of color, African American folks, and he just starts talking in this weird accent, and it made me feel really uncomfortable and weird. So
John Hughes had like the Asian character in 16 Candles. There's a little.
Anyway, it invokes a little bit of that, because I'm just like, and I don't think Dookie Flyswatter is a person of color and nothing of that, so I'm just like, what's going on here? But okay, anyway, to continue, so as you do with this imp, also, who knows the fuck what an imp is, but whatever. I kind of know what a djinn is, because a djinn's like a genie that's evil, I think, but like, who the fuck knew what an imp was? But anyway, he apparently can give wishes. That's his MO. And so he's like, okay, I'm going to grant you a wish for freeing me or whatever. So like Jimmy wishes for gold. So he gets gold.
Sensible.
Yeah, Taffy wishes to be the prom queen. So Brinke.
But girl, you had a wish, and that's what you wished for?
That's what you wanted.
You're in college. You forget about high school. You're like, oh, been there, done that. Prom queen? Okay, Carrie.
Yeah. But she gets right. But hey, don't talk about Carrie in this podcast. Okay, listen, amazing. But anyway, so
I love Carrie. Yes,
love. But anyway, so she gets to be in her dress and all that. It's great. And then Keith, who wishes to have sex with Lisa, Michelle Bauer. But Linnea, Quigley, so Spider and Calvin don't do any wishes though, which I guess
they're skeptical.
They're skeptical, but they get to all three of them get their little wish that they get. And then in the meantime, those other bitches, the 3 bitches from the sorority, they are watching this on the camera. At first they're laughing because they're just like, oh, ha, 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 ha. And then they are like, what the fuck's going on with this thing? Like, was this a part of the plan? Like, no, it wasn't, I guess. And then once the wishes happen, I guess, these 3 girls from the sorority end up getting, I don't know, like they end up getting turned into
first
zombies.
It's only 2 of them. It's Babs, like, yeah, so one gets like this like kind of mutated face, like
right,
kind of like dead looking. Now the second one becomes basically the Bride of Frankenstein.
She does.
And I will say this, and I will go on record, every performance in this film is wooden, awkward, and horrible. Yes. However, this actress that plays the Bride of Frankenstein mutation sorority girl, rent was due. The electric company was calling saying that they were going to turn off the lights, and she needed to make money yesterday.
Yeah.
And she performed.
She does perform. She really does.
She gave a stellar performance.
She does. And I think what ends up happening too, because they're freaked out, so those 2 become the whatever the fucks. And then Babs like tries to run out of the mall, but she gets electrocuted because the doors are like electrified, because that's what the imp did. And so then she like is like shocked back or whatever. And then we just go back to the people and their wishes or whatever. But anyway, so we then have this, this is where we find out the group. So these wishes are not actually real. Oh, also fun fact about the trophy. So it looks like it's metallic or like made of silver or whatever, but it's actually made of wood. It was made of balsa wood.
Balsa wood.
It was. Yeah. But we find out in regards to wood, we find out that Jimmy's gold is not actually gold. It's wood painted as gold. We then see Taffy, and her prom dress is like tattered. And then the other issue is that so Lisa and whatever the fuck his name was go off to have sex in this like locker room, which is fine. And Michelle Bauer is a very pretty lady with a very buxom.
Oh, gorgeous.
Gorgeous. But she's the one kind of doing everything. And it's interesting because I was thinking to myself, I'm not going to go that deep on this stupid movie, but like it was interesting that like this guy who was such a not, I don't say pervert, he kind of is, but like he was so into having sex with her, right?
Right, he wished it. I literally in my notes said, "Yeah, you wished for this, bro." Like, yeah,
but then he's like, it's an interesting thing of consent, kind of, sort of, if we want to read into it. Because she's just like ripping him off, like his ripping his clothes off and all this. Still get no dick, which is very upsetting. Which apparently, this is my little fun thing I was going to have. So what it was that I believe when it comes down to it, that was supposed to be a nude scene, but then he decided he couldn't do it, and so instead, being a gay, David DeCoteau was like, well, at least if you could wear tighty whities, that'd be good. But then he ended up wearing those literal. They're not long johns, but like they're long boxers that he had on, like almost sort of. I was just like, what is going on here? Like, what are we doing? But anyway, so that was a weird scene. And so that's pretty much where that whole scene is and stays for the most part. They don't ever, I think, actually come back to the lanes, but the two girls who have been zombified or whatever the fuck, I like the one of them, not the Bride of Frankenstein lady, but the other lady is like putting cold cream on herself at some point, just being like, this is never gonna clear up. But they kill Jimmy, they kill the fat one, and they decapitate him, and they use his head to roll the down the lanes, because you're in a bowling alley. To bowl.
Yeah,
that's
I
fun.
did like that. I also did really enjoy that.
Exactly. But anyway, so we have that, and so this is when Spider and Calvin are like, oh shit, like, this shit's bad, like we need to do something about it. And then, like I said, Lisa is trying to ferociously have sex with Keith, I think his name is. They hide away from him, or so Spider and Calvin, they hide away from them in like a closet or some sort, because they just run away. They then find some kind of gun to like protect themselves against this, because in the meantime, while you see them running away, I think that's when you see them rolling his head down the lane or whatever. So then you do have that. They then end up shooting Lisa. Or no, they shoot Rhonda, sorry. So they shoot the one that's not the Bride of Frankenstein yet. I think
Right,
they
yes.
shoot her. And then they flee away. Or actually, really, because they're zombies, I don't even really know if they die yet. But anyway.
Who knows?
Who knows? But we do have... we got that going on. And then after escaping her, though, Rhonda then ends up... So Keith, I don't even know if he even got any, to be honest. He might have, I guess. But he's like now come back to try to find his friends. Or I guess his friend. I don't think him and Spider were friends, but like whatever.
Who knows?
They come back, and pretty much what ends up happening is one of the girls takes him and puts his head into this like stove or something, and like pretty much I think boils
it's a
his
fryer.
life. Yeah, something like that. Like they do that. And then they also kill Taffy though, because they
they like rip her apart
and they pull her apart.
They pulled her apart like Taffy.
Oh wow! You put it together.
Deep.
There you go.
Mm-hmm.
Deep.
That explains why her name's Taffy.
Exactly. But anyway, so I believe all this time though, because you see a little bit of like Spider and Calvin kind of like, because at first they were kind of like Calvin's interested in her, I think. So you see that like their little romance, quote unquote, starts to go or whatever. Anyway, so there was that. That was fine. Babs this whole time, I guess, just like was unconscious.
Was knocked
she then
out. Yeah.
Knocked out. She then woke up either behind where the pins are, or she woke up somewhere. And
she wakes up. She wakes up by the door, but then she goes back into the bowling alley, and then Bride of Frankenstein follows her, and then Spider bowls
You're right.
in the alley, and that somehow kills her.
Well, we think it kills her, I think. So
yes, we think it kills her, but then the imp decides to possess Babs because she's the only one left on
exactly.
on Team Sorority. Yeah.
Right. So Taffy's dead, the other guy's dead, the fat one's dead, and I think one of the zombie people is dead, I guess. But after that all happens, and then we find out that Babs, I guess, has been possessed, but we don't see her full form yet. We will see that later. But we see that Spider and Calvin, they run away. They end up finding the janitor, who's just a janitor. He doesn't have a name. He's Buckflower. But we find out that this guy, I also love the janitor because he's just like, he says something about an ant's cunt or something. And he says like some crazy shit, as Buckflower does. He would play, vagrant, unhoused folks, I guess, in movies that are in horror. He was in Wishmaster. He was in a couple different movies and whatever. He would have been a great Crazy Ralph probably, but whatever. Anyway,
he would have.
I know, right? I mean, I love that one guy, Walter Gorney or whatever, but like, he would have been good too. But anyway, so we find out, but he also has a hearing problem because like he's talking to Calvin and Spider about this whole story of how the imp was summoned to help a lousy bowler by the name of David McCabe, who David McCabe is one of the pseudonyms that David DeCoteau used for like
during his porn career
or something. Exactly. So that's kind of fun. They trapped him in this trophy for 30 years, and then this guy, I think, like died or whatever. And so, but then he was like also executed because he was blamed for the deaths of people who would like make fun of him or something. Because I guess the imp killed people for this guy or whatever. Because remember, it has to be a horror movie, so we have to have killing in there somewhere, I guess. But anyway, so what ends up happening is, but I love that he can't hear very well. So like anytime that Spider says something, he says it, but he can't hear what she said. So one of the things was like, something of S, and be like, oh, well, didn't he confess or whatever? Be like, oh no, it was something like, it was just so like, you're gonna have to watch it, but like, I don't remember the exact line.
It's another like repeating gag of like, she'll say something, he'll be like, what? She'll say it again, what? And then he'll basically be like, oh, she's like, just wait here and listen when we come back. What?
Exactly.
Wait here and listen when we come back. I can't hear you. I'm just going to wait here and listen until you come back.
Yeah, like, that kind of thing. It's just really funny, and it's the bit of comedy that's in this movie, I guess. Babs, I think, then I guess, kills Lisa or something. This is what my notes say.
Yes.
She kills her, but then she comes back in her full form, okay? Because actually, no, wait, beforehand, I think what happened is that doesn't the janitor die at some point, right? Like
I think so. Yeah.
He gets killed by Lisa because she starts off with a knife in her hand when she's killing the janitor after they leave, because they're trying to find like, okay, shit, like we gotta like try to find a way out of this thing, right? So but Lisa, who's the Bride of Frankenstein, she has a knife in her hand at first, but then when she's chasing after Calvin and Spider, she has an axe all of a sudden, which is fun.
Why not?
This is also we're nearing almost the end of the movie, kind of, sort of, like we're halfway there, or we're a quarter of the way there. This is also one of the most awkward scenes, because when you see the Bride of Frankenstein chasing after these people, they're chasing them back to the lanes or some bullshit, or to the locker room or something. They did not. Now, I watched this on Roku yesterday, and they did have music for it, where they had it over where, you know, when they're getting chased by this woman, there's music playing. However, I'm pretty sure if you watch it on Tubi or some other place, there is a cut of this movie where you don't hear that, and all you hear is them just running, and the lady just like hissing.
I think that happened to me with my cut that I watched. Yeah.
It's there's no music over that. It's just them running away from this lady, who I guess they end up killing. But literally, or I think Lisa Babs kills her or something. But anyway, like there's just this random scene. If you watch this movie, you'll know what I'm talking about, because I'm just like, oh, there was no money for music apparently, or getting any kind of
apparently not. They ran out of budget.
They ran out of budget, because I don't think so. Maybe when this came out in home video, maybe that's what they had. I don't know.
Maybe.
But anyway, so after Babs apparently kills Lisa, this is where she comes back in full force, okay? Because she's got her wig, she's got her like whatever the fuck thing she's wearing. I did send Pickens a photo of this, and I do think he should do it for a Halloween costume at some point. You know, just
I think I'm down.
I think you should do it.
Yeah.
I'm just saying. But anyway, maybe this is what it was, perhaps. Who even knows? But they're chased by this lady with the axe. Either we find her before or after. Again, y'all, it doesn't really matter. This movie's
Babs is the final, I think, thing they have to kind of talk. Oh, and also, just to give you guys even more context, during like all of these death scenes and like chase scenes, the imp just randomly will pop in and like basically just give like a one-liner throughout all of this. Just
like, nice. Yeah, have a nice trip. See you next fall.
See you next fall. Yeah, like we're like really that good. Level bad.
Oh god, we're just looking at this. But anyway, so what ends up happening is that, because maybe Babs gets killed. Oh, I think what happens maybe is Babs gets killed.
Babs gets the Molotov cocktail thrown at her.
Exactly. So that gets done, and the effects for that are just masterful. We have that, but then also, I think Frankie is her name. Apparently, she chases them with the axe. But then what ends up happening is that, because this is when they killed the janitor, and she killed the janitor and all that. But she then is able to get the Spider's able to get the axe from her, and then just like cuts her head off, I guess, which is good.
And then it like breaks the door. And
exactly.
So
You're right. And then so Calvin goes and gets the car that they were in. I guess it's his car, maybe. And he is attacked by Rhonda, who is the lasagna faced lady, I think, or something, because she wasn't dead apparently. She then, in the meantime, while this is happening, Spider is able to trap Impie into a box. I think it's a tobacco box or something like that.
Yeah.
And Calvin struggles to get the car. He ends up crashing it in the one car crash scene that we get in this movie, because you know they had to pay some money for that, of this like $100,000 budget, or $90,000 or whatever. Who paid for this movie? I have questions. But anyway, so like there was that. So then, you know, Spider cries out for Calvin. She runs over to him, and Rhonda is killed in the crash, but then Spider and Calvin are okay, and they're our final couple, if you will.
Yeah.
So then
They get to escape.
they do get to escape. And so Spider, so then this is like in the morning when the fucking bowling alley is about to open. Day breaks, Spider drives Calvin to her house on her motorcycle, which we don't actually see them go to her house. But she just says, come to my place, and she like drives away. And then Uncle Impie is trapped in the box, asking someone to let him out, where he then asks somebody in the audience, like, hey, can you let me? And then that's the end of that movie.
That's the end.
That's the end, y'all. And that's the end of Sorority Babes and the Slimeball Bowl-O-Rama. Fun little fact about this that I found out, that apparently Linnea Quigley, and I don't expect her to, she did not know how to drive a motorcycle necessarily, but when you're an actor, you say you'll do whatever you need to. So she, I think, like, had somebody give her, like, a little lesson of, like, okay, here's what you do so that you're not, like, gonna, like, die, hopefully. And so that's what ends up happening with there, and you see them go off into the distance. And then you have the fun sequel where they pretty much say that Spider was the only one to get out, which is funny because no, she wasn't, but okay. Anyway, and that is Sorority Babes and the Slimeball Bowl-O-Rama. Now, as we already as you could already kind of gather from me and Pickens, we thought we would have fun with this because, I love a good sleazy movie here and there. This one, I mean, I think there's better ones,
Oh, I was going to say, if you want a better sorority initiation movie, watch The Initiation. It's from 1984.
Really? Okay.
Vera Mills from Psycho is in it. She's the mom of one of the characters. Okay. But it's actually it's like almost the same plot minus the imp and like, the mythological stuff. But it's about a group of sorority sisters, and they're tasked to break into the mall, which one of the characters' dads owns. And they break into the mall, and then there's a killer on the loose.
Huh. David DeCoteau, you might have some explaining to do, because did you just take the Initiation and turn it into another movie? Also, you can also just watch like
mythological thing. Yeah,
exactly. You can also just watch The House on Sorority Row, probably too. That's
right?
Fine.
Hell Night. That's another
alley.
initiation
Hell
movie.
Night.
That's
you
good.
Can probably watch.
Yeah.
I like how we're just telling everyone to just not watch this. Or
The Big Lebowski, if you want to watch a good bowling movie.
Sure, exactly. Or you can also just do what I did like 2 months ago or however long ago, and just watch also like Sorority Row. You can watch that too. That's fun.
My god. Yes, that's we should do a double feature of that and Black Christmas 2006.
So here's the thing though, because I've been thinking of this. So we're gonna have you back for Black Christmas 2006 because I have thoughts and feelings.
I have thoughts.
And we might put Sorority Row in there too. I'm thinking of doing it more in the holiday season, but you know what? Sorority Row is all year round. Okay, it could be holiday fun.
It's anytime. Anytime is the right time for Sorority Row.
Oh yeah, or we'll do like a separate episode on it. I don't know, but I'll have you probably on for either one because those movies I just can't anyway. But yeah, so
we'll talk about
regardless, we'll talk about it. But yeah, but I will say I give a little bit of something to this film of employing a gay person getting work. Love that for him. I also do give a little bit of this to like what we talked about earlier with like home video and stuff like that. This was a part of that where you could watch this at your local Blockbuster or your local mom and pop shop and probably rent it. It was probably really cheap. So like, there is some little bit of credit to the movie of being so bad it's good, I guess. I don't think it's that great, but to each their own, I guess. But I definitely knew I needed to cover it at some point because it is a cult classic, and that's what my whole show is. I knew I needed to bring in somebody to do it, and I know that you were going to be the right person for the job, Pickens. So,
I'm so glad I was up to the task. Yeah,
you really were.
It doesn't hold up as my younger self remembers it, but
no,
it is stupid. It's fun. It's it's worth seeing once.
It is worth seeing
with
once
friends.
If you're a horror person. Yeah.
Yes.
I think if you're a horror person and you like that kind of stuff, and it's better than Things, or I'll even say it's a little bit better than Veronica. And I will say for the record here, no, I'm not covering Veronica. I'm not doing it. Do you know about? Wait, we're gonna take a minute before we start to wrap up. Do you know about Veronica Pickens? Do you know about this?
No.
Okay, so I'm gonna tell you all about it because okay, so Dead Meat also comes back into this. So another one of their commentary tracks they did was on Veronica, which is on Shudder right now. Do you know who Glenn Danzig is by any chance?
That name rings a bell.
He's the lead singer of the Misfits and also just Danzig in general. Anyway, so he's also problematic as well. But he decided he wanted to take his erotic comic series called Verotic and turn it into a movie called Verotica, which is a mix of violence and erotica. And have you seen like The Room before? I haven't seen The Room, but have you seen The Room?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so The Room I think is even a little bit of a better film than Verotica. It's
my God.
It's literally like Glenn Danzig trying to do an anthology, and he has these 3 movies or 3 shorts that he does, one of which is about a spider person, one of which is pretty much Eyes Without a Face, but not really. And another one that's like an Elizabeth Bathory thing. And when I tell you... Oh, and also fun fact about the sequel of Sorority Babes, none of the girls are in porn or anything, which is shocking to me.
Yeah, the times are changing. The
times are changing. And, these can just be like amateur actors. Also, I found out before we started, one of the boys in it is a TikTok star, apparently. You told me that.
Yeah. I watched the trailer and I was like... because he plays at least like the 10 seconds I saw him in the trailer.
Yeah,
he's doing the same shtick that he does in his TikTok videos, where he plays like it's a POV of a frat guy, and he does like this, like the chewing from doing too much coke, and like the can't really focus thing, like that.
Anyway, okay. Yeah, so anyway, but we found out about that. But anyway, Verotica, back to Verotica, because I'm probably never covering it. Anyway, one of the commentary tracks that Dead Meat has on their Patreon is them with their friend, who lives with them, I think, who was on their old channel with Drunk Disney and shit. But anyway, so it's them looking at this movie. They're like, okay, cool, like whatever. It's just them complaining for 90 minutes, which is so fair, because I'm telling you. And you know what the thing is too, we were talking about this over DM, because yes, I did spend $5.99 on this movie, this sequel, right? But I feel a certain way about when people like Danzig puts this thing out for $20 and has people rent it for $20, and then they're given this horse shit. Or like Blumhouse charging $20 for people to rent like The Craft Legacy, and it's a piece of bullshit too.
Right.
So I'm kind of like, $5.99 was fine, I guess. But like, yeah, Veronica's really bad, y'all. Like, I mean, if you didn't already know, and it's like legendarily bad, apparently he does want to do a sequel. But I think what's interesting, I think what's interesting about Veronica is that it literally is just Glenn Danzig. Obviously has, I don't care if he ever hears this, I don't give a shit. He has so many yes men around him that I think he just took $1 million of his own dollars and was like, let me go make this movie. Because he literally like produced it, he wrote the music for it. I'm pretty sure he directed.
Don't put your own money in there.
I think he directed it. Technically, he didn't edit it. It was some other guy editing it, but he did pretty much everything else. And so he was like, literally, like they literally, like I think to save money. Apparently,
this was his passion project.
Apparently, like because it was all done in LA. Obviously, a lot of it was like done over at Skid Row, which is a not great part of LA. Again, the fact that you're like, oh, let's go to this part of LA that's just cheaper to go because nobody wants to go there, to go shoot my stupid movie I have, and then give it to Shudder to go and bestow upon us all. So it's just like, and Caroline Williams is in there, dude. She is in the last piece. She doesn't talk that much, but she is in it. And you know what though? She needed a paycheck, and I'm glad she got one. And I'm glad all of those people got paid.
Good for her.
I'm not glad that Danzig himself got paid, because he's a piece of shit who said that Hugh Jackman's portrayal of the Wolverine was like really a homo, and he has said some weird shit in the past.
What?
Look it up, y'all. He said something about that, where because he apparently was he was offered to play that apparently. Because if you didn't know, he's really short and like muscly. Okay. But like he was offered to do that, but he didn't do it. Because I would only imagine that Glenn Danzig's not a good actor. But anyway, he talked about how Hugh Jackman did it, and he said something about it being gay or whatever. And I was just like, oh
my gosh.
And again, it was a different time, y'all, I know, but like he just seems like a big piece of shit. And also, I will give credit to Dead Meat. They said that they'll never cover it ever again, and they never want to do it again. I get it. We're never covering it again. So I'll give it that. Because anyway, but to wrap this episode up, because this has been so, I don't even know if it's been fun. It's been fun to talk to you though, and just
I've had
about
a blast.
Movie. It's been great. But thank you so much, Pickens, for being on my show today. I really do appreciate it. We'll have you back, I'm sure. Of course, I'm just gonna have to let you know when I want to have you on. But I do appreciate you coming on, talking about this stupid movie. And, you know, did you want to plug anything? Movie. I know, right? Did you want to plug anything before we wrap up today?
Just follow me on Instagram, Party Pickens. That's basically the social media I use the most. That's right. Interact with the most.
Yeah. He doesn't post as many thirst traps as I think he should, but I'm just, you know.
Darling, I can't. If I was going to post a thirst trap, I am a thirst trap, darling. I don't have to post. I just am.
That's true.
No, I could not take myself. I don't know how they thirst trappers take themselves seriously.
I don't know either.
Ooh, honey,
I don't get it. Anyway,
all right. Well, but I'm pretty easy. If you DM me, send me a nude, I'll probably do it.
Well, this is also Pickens making part of his OnlyFans going to have to happen. I mean, hey, listen.
Right, we're testing out the OnlyFans thing, right? Mama needs another paycheck.
I know, right? Anyway, thank you so much, Pickens. I do appreciate it, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. Hope everyone else has a good rest of their day, and thanks for listening. Take care. Bye.
You too. All right, bye.
As always, if you'd like to get in touch with me, you can do so at cultcinemacircle@gmail.com. In case you want to give any movie recommendations, give feedback on the show, or if you just want to say, hey, I'm open to all of it. You can also follow the Cult Cinema Circle podcast on Instagram and Twitter. Instagram handle is Cult Cinema Circle, and Twitter handle is Cult Cinecircle. On those platforms, I tend to announce the different episodes I'm going to be doing. I'll make little Instagram stories when we have an episode drop and just generally interact with anybody on there that wants to interact with me. You can also follow me on Letterboxd at Jesse, Jesse, Kremp, Kremp, all one word. On there, I log the movies that I watch and write little reviews about them and just general foolishness over there. Be sure to rate, comment, and subscribe to the Cult Cinema Circle podcast on your podcatcher of choice, whether that be Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Audible, or wherever you get your podcasts. I'm pretty much out there everywhere. Be sure to leave 5 stars and a 1 to 2 sentence review so we can grow the audience more and also just spread the love all around. Be sure to tune in next week to the Cult Cinema Circle podcast, where I'll be covering 2004's Saved. Mary is a good Christian girl who goes to a good Christian high school where she has good Christian friends and a perfect Christian boyfriend. Her life seems perfect until the day that she finds out that her boyfriend might be gay and that she's pregnant. As always, thank you for taking the time to listen to the Cult Cinema Circle podcast. And remember, I gotta tell you kids, drugs are not the answer. Now you gotta do what it says on the TV and just say no. Take care. Bye.